All right. Hello and welcome back to another episode of our professional spotlight series. I am Jesse Bayer of Abundant Living Ecuador. We are a real estate and development firm based out of the Loja, Vilcabamba area of Southern Ecuador. And we are very pleased today to be joined by visa specialist Joseph Guznay. Joseph is somebody who we've worked with. Forgive me if you'll fix my pronunciation there if I mess that up
It's
at all.
very good.
Very good. Okay, great. Joseph is somebody we've worked with a lot over the years. We've referred, many clients to, and honestly, in my experience, he's really, one of the best, if not the best, visa person here in Ecuador. He's based out of Quito. However, he can help you with your visa regardless of where you are, where you're coming from. And there's been some updates to the rules recently. So we wanted to touch base with Joseph, figure out, what are the current rules, what are the do's and don'ts, what are the tips and tricks, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be a conversation on visas, on immigrating to Ecuador, again, with visa specialist Joseph Guznay. So Joseph, thanks so much for joining us today, for taking the time. Why don't you introduce yourself and we'll take it from there.
Sure. Hello, Jesse. Thanks so much for having me. It's always good to see you and talk to you about the visa process. I'm Joseph Guznay. I'm a visa specialist. I've been working in this area for about 8 years on my own, and I assist people from all over the world and all over Ecuador with their process to apply for their visas and cedulas. I take care of the entire process until people have their visas and cedulas in hand. So if you need assistance, I'll be happy to work with you.
Excellent. So let's start with some of the basics. We don't need to give every detail on every visa, obviously, but what are some of the basics? If I'm a foreigner, well, first of all, as a tourist, I can visit from just about anywhere without a visa. There's a list of countries that needs a visa. It's not very long. But so that's as a tourist. But then if I want to actually move here, get a residency visa, what are some of those basics? And then we can get into some of the new rules.
Sure. As you mentioned, most people can move to Ecuador on a tourist visa and they receive a 90-day tourist visa upon arrival. And then they can apply for a residency visa once they're in Ecuador. I do recommend that people apply here in Ecuador because the process is smoother, faster, and less documentation is required for the visa process in Ecuador rather than applying for the visa through an embassy or a consulate in another country. And also, there's a lot of people that are 65 years old or over, and they receive a 50% discount on the government fees here in Ecuador. And that discount is not applied for visas issued at a consulate or at an embassy. Getting a 50% discount is a really good benefit. The main visas that people apply for are the retirement visa, which is available for anyone who has a monthly retirement income. The required amount increased a couple of weeks ago, and now it is required to receive 1,275 per month. So if someone has that retirement income, they are eligible to apply for this visa. And what is basically required is that you get a letter from the institution that pays your monthly requirement, your income, and that letter has to be notarized and apostilled. And with that, you show that you have a monthly income, and you also need your bank statements for 6 months. And of course, your background checks for any type of visa that you apply for. You need to have the background checks from the country that you have been living in for the last 5 years. Another visa that is very common is the Rentista Visa, which is available for anyone who has a monthly income from any source other than retirement. So for example, if you have property that you rent out and you receive that rent every month, and the rent is at least $1,275, then you can apply for the Rentista Visa. Or if you have a disability and you receive an income from the government, you can apply for this visa. Now there is the Nomad Visa, which is part of the Rentista Visa. So if you have a job with a company out of Ecuador and you have a contract and $275, you can apply for the Nomad Visa, Rentista Visa. Or if you own a company in another country and you receive an income, you can apply for this Rentista Nomad Visa. So those are the main visas. Also, another visa that is very common among expats is the investment visa. When you have money and you want to come to Ecuador and invest in the country and you get a certificate of deposit for $42,500, you can apply for the investment visa. it is also possible to apply for the investment visa on property. Jesse, you have assisted many clients with the process to purchase property here in Ecuador and then apply for the investment visa on real estate. So this is a really good option too when people move and they either buy a business or hotel property or just a house to live in, and the property costs at least $42,500 or more, then you're eligible to apply for the investment visa on real estate.
Okay, and these are all 2-year temporary resident visas, correct? And then after those 2 years, I can apply for my permanent residency. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, Ecuador first gives you a temporary residency visa for 21 months, and then for 24 months, for 2 years. And then 3 months prior to the expiration date of your visa, when you have reached 21 months on the temporary visa, you're eligible to apply for the permanent visa. However, there's something important to mention about this because since the law changed a couple of weeks ago, all temporary visas don't have any travel restrictions. People are allowed to come and go on the visas as they want. However, if they want to apply for a permanent visa, then the travel restriction changes to only 90 days in total on the 2 years that the temporary visa is good for. So if you don't want to apply for a permanent visa, you can come and go as you want on the temporary visa. But if you want to become a permanent resident in Ecuador, then you can only leave the country for 90 days in total on the 2 years. Yeah, and then in 2 years, you will receive the permanent visa, which is indefinite. It doesn't expire. And then, that will be the last visa that you will have to get. So basically, you will receive 2 visas. First, the temporary visa for 2 years. Then they can renew that visa and either apply for the permanent visa or renew it for another 2-year temporary visa, which can be renewed multiple times.
Interesting. That is a big change. So that's really convenient for, the snowbird crowd or the folks who want to do 6 months and 6 months. They can do that indefinitely at this point. So really, it sounds like, Joseph, the main changes to the law really are the income requirements, which have gone up fairly significantly, as well as the lack of travel restrictions. Are there other changes that people should know about?
Well, those are the most important changes. If people want to become a permanent resident, they can only be gone for 90 days. And if they want to apply for either a retirement visa or a pension visa, the Rentista Visa, they need to have at least $1,275 per month. Those are the main changes.
Perfect. Okay, well, that covers very much almost all of it in a very concise manner. Are there other factors or other tips, tricks, advice, anything else that people should know about who are considering moving to Ecuador and getting a visa here?
Well, what I recommend to most of my clients is that they do research or contact me before they move to Ecuador. And I always send them an email with all of the information on the process. I include a list of all of the required documents, a breakdown of all of the fees, and when all fees are payable. When people are still in their countries, it's much easier for them to collect all of the requirement documents than moving to Ecuador and not having documents, and then they have to either go back or hire a channeler company to get the documents, another company to get the apostilles. So it will cost more money and takes more time. So if people contact me before they come, they can collect all documents before they move to Ecuador, and then we can apply for the visa as soon as they get here.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was going to mention that I take care of all of the translations for people. So people usually just get their documents in their countries, bring them to Ecuador, and then I collect it from them when they're here, and I translate all documents into Spanish and take care of every step of the process for their visas.
Yeah, and people, so currently, I know it's been different over the years. Currently, if I'm applying for the visa, so I'm let's say I'm in the United States, I get my FBI check, I get my state police report, I get whatever documents I need, accompanying documents I need, depending on the type of visa I'm applying for. Once I have all that ready, I have to get it apostilled, of course. Then I'm sending it to you, I guess, via DHL or FedEx. You're translating it. Are you then starting the process here in Ecuador immediately? Or is it something where I have to physically come to Quito, then the process starts? And then talk a little bit about that, the logistics and the time frame.
Sure. When people get their documents and they're going to apply for the visas here in Ecuador, I recommend that they bring the documents with them to Ecuador. There is no need for them to send the documents ahead of time to me, the original documents, because in order for a person to apply for the visa here in Ecuador, they need to be in Ecuador because the ministry checks in the system that the person is in Ecuador. And we also need the migratory certificate, which is a document that shows all of the travel records to and from Ecuador for a person. So that document has to show that the person is in Ecuador. And we also need a copy of the entry stamp on the passport. So I do have people sometimes take photos of the documents or scan the documents and send them to me ahead of time. And I check all documents to confirm that they meet the requirements, that all documents are correct. And then once they're here, I collect them and I begin the process.
Okay.
And they send the documents to me here in Ecuador through Servientrega, which is one of the most reliable courier companies here in Ecuador. They deliver overnight for like $5 and they provide a tracking number. I have been using their services for about 7 years now and I've never had an issue. They're really good. So I use that company. And then at the end of the process, once they have to get the cedula, it is possible to get the cedulas in either Quito, Guayaquil, or Cuenca. And I assist in those 3 cities. I have an assistant in Cuenca as well. So I have people meet with my assistant and they go together to the Registro Civil, which is the office in charge of cedulas. And my assistant helps them with the entire process until they leave the building with the cedula in hand. And also all visas here in Ecuador are electronic. So there's no need for them to come meet with me again to go to the ministry because once the ministry approves the visas, they issue an email and a PDF with the visa and they send the visas to them by email.
Oh, great. Okay. So that's also changed in the last couple of years. Yeah. So in other words, once somebody gives you their documents, do they have an initial appointment that they show up to in person, and then after that they don't have to come back again in person? Is that accurate, or is it not in person at all anymore?
For the visa, they can just send the documents to me and I take care of the entire process for them. And for the cedula, they do have to be present because for the cedula, they need to have their photo taken, their fingerprints scanned, and they also need to sign on the cedula. So they need to be there for the photo.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow, it's definitely gotten easier than when I was doing this more often.
Well, yeah. When you started the process many years ago, you did have to go a few times, I guess, and the process was much longer. Yeah, nowadays the processing time for a temporary visa could be from 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the appointment availability. And for the permanent visas, it takes about 2 months for people to have the visas in hand. In the past, it was taking way more, but nowadays the new law gives them 60 days for the ministry to approve the visas.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and what Joseph's referring to, he keeps saying cedula. That's like a national ID card, similar to what would be, just your regular ID, like your driver's license back home in the U.S. And so that's something that his service, helps with as well, as he mentioned. Well,
there's a lot of people that they ask me if they should get a cedula or not. And I always recommend that people get a cedula because it is an ID card in Ecuador. You register in the national system. You can open a bank account on the cedula. You can travel nationally on the cedula. And, that means that you don't have to carry the passport with you always on as ID, which you could lose it or something could happen to it. So you can just use the cedula. A lot of people leave the original cedula in their house and they carry a laminated copy, which is possible too. And the cedula only costs $15, so it is totally worth it. And for the renewal, it is $26. So, it is worth to have an ID.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, they change occasionally, but what are I don't mean your fees, but what are the current fees, the visa fees? Like, what does the government charge to issue a visa currently?
Sure. Well, the government fee for all visas is the same. For all temporary visas, which is the 2-year visa, the cost of the government fee is $450. You pay $50 when you apply, and then once the visa is approved, you pay the $400. And if someone is over 65 years old, they receive a 50% discount on the government fees, as I mentioned, and they pay $225. And if you're having someone as a dependent, for example, your children or your spouse, they pay $250 for the dependent visa. Also, if the dependent is a senior, they get a 50% discount and they pay $125.
Yeah,
for the visa.
And
for the permanent visas, the cost of the permanent visa is 550. People also pay $50 when they submit the application, and they pay the 500 when the permanent visa is approved.
Yeah, I don't know. This is something I heard. I don't know if it's accurate or not. It used to be when you applied for the permanent visa, that you had to tie up, like, for example, if you had a bank CD, a polisa, or if you had real estate that was backing your investment visa, you had to keep that tied up long term. My understanding is that you no longer have to do that. Is that accurate?
Well, when someone applies for a temporary visa, they do need to have the certificate of deposit at the bank and the money in the bank for 2 years. And once they become a permanent resident, they become a permanent resident for tiempo de permanencia, which means that they have been living in Ecuador for at least 21 months on a temporary visa. And then the permanent visa is no longer an investment visa. So they're allowed to withdraw the city once they become a permanent resident.
I see.
So basically, if they decide to apply for permanent residency after the temporary visa, they only need to keep the money in the bank for 2 years.
Perfect. So
If they have an investment visa on real estate and then they become a permanent resident, it is also possible for the ministry to remove the lien on the property in case that they wanted to sell it or do something with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. And one other thing that I heard that you can help me clarify. I understand that it's easier now if you need to switch from one visa to another. That used to be quite a process. I've heard, my understanding now, for example, if you do a 2-year temporary residency visa, let's say, backed by real estate or backed by a bank CD on an investment visa, and then you want to switch to something else, or you need to reapply. I understand that they've streamlined that process as well. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is possible. For example, if you come and you're not retired yet and you apply for an investment visa on a certificate of deposit, and then in 2 years you want to change to a retirement visa because you happen to retire and now you have the monthly income, then you can change the retirement visa. It is possible. You do have to reapply and you need a new set of documents and you have to pay all of the government fees again, but it is possible. Yeah. I've assisted many people with the process to change the visa category from either investment to retirement, or from a permanent visa that had the CD tied up to the investment to a visa for tiempo de permanencia. So yeah, it is possible. And the process is smooth. The visas get approved. So yeah, if someone is interested, I can help them with that as well.
And do you also assist people in becoming citizens, or do you only help people become residents?
No, I do assist people with the citizenship process too. It is taking a long time nowadays. The process is taking about 3.5 years. When someone applies for citizenship through Carta de Naturalización, which means that they have been a permanent resident in Ecuador for at least 3 years, and they're eligible to apply for citizenship. There's another process when someone is married to an Ecuadorian citizen for at least 2 years. They can apply for citizenship through marriage. They need to have the marriage registered in Ecuador for at least 2 years, or have gotten married here in Ecuador for at least 2 years, and then they're eligible to apply for that type of citizenship. And that process is much faster. It's taking from like 4 months to 6 months, and the cost of the government fees is way lower than the other type.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's really all I have on my end. If there's anything I missed that you want to touch on, please do that. Also, if you want to share your contact info, we'll also put a link in the description. It'll probably be pinned in the chat as well, or in the comments, I should say. What is the best way for people to reach you? Is that WhatsApp? Is that your email? How do you prefer to be contacted?
Yeah, people can either send me a message on WhatsApp, they can call me, or they can send me an email. My email is josephguznay@gmail.com, and my phone number is 098-7473-181. There's a lot of people that contact me through Messenger as well, so either method of communication works for me.
Okay, perfect. Well, we'll put that info as well below, so you guys can check that out and contact Joseph for any of your immigration needs in Ecuador. Joseph, anything else before we wrap up?
Oh, that's pretty much it. We did cover all of the visas and the information on the process. So thanks so much for having me, Jesse. And as I said before, if someone needs my services, I'll be happy to work with you, and contact me.
Joseph, thank you so much for the time. Thank you all of you for tuning in. Once again, I'm Jesse Baer with Abundant Living Ecuador, real estate and development company in Southern Ecuador. Please feel free to reach out to us with any investment or real estate questions. Other than that, have a great day.
Thank you, Jesse.
You too. Take care.